gentle, maximum, and thrashing.
In a corner over there.
Congratulations, Sam, you've won £10,000.
This video has been sponsored by the ruddy good guys and gals at Surfshark.
Good luck.
It was in Gloucestershire, and a bloke called Sam found it. But what's he going to do with all of that money?
I'll be splitting it with the guys that obviously helped me out, but what we are looking at doing is doing our own treasure hunt as well, carrying on the legacy.
We love it. We love it.
Right, how did he find it? Let's get straight into it. A few weeks ago, I put £10,000 in a briefcase and I hid that briefcase somewhere in the mainland of the United Kingdom. But before I tell you the clues and how you could have solved the clues, can I just say that hiding a briefcase full of cash was one of the sketchiest things that I have ever done?
Right. Middle of fucking nowhere. I'm actually quite scared. It's actually quite scary. Yeah. The absolute state of this. If I do not upside down. No. Stung by a stinging nettle. Ow. In a corner over there. £10,000 in cash.
Now, the physical location of the briefcase was in a place called Fosh Lane in Gloucestershire. Now, that won't make much sense unless you've seen the clues. Remember, most of this was written by Mystery Man, one of the UK's best treasure hunters, and basically a treasure hunt expert, so I really can't take any of the credit. So, the clues, what were they? Clue 1 was a poem. Me, myself, and mother will give no more than that. Words help you discover where my treasure's at. Pretty simple. Clue 2 was an audio clue. It sounded like this.
Then this happened in the 1980s, and it was notoriously what? Press them on, Chef.
In Great Yarmouth.
And clue 3 was another poem. Darling, tonight let us dine on mogul dishes so fine. 3 courses with wine. The first sounds divine. Being a treasure hunt, me and Mystery Man wanted there to be some red herrings for people to scamper after. So let's just go through those first. Well, the red herrings that were intentional anyway. You guys came up with some absolutely bonkers theories, and to be honest, I absolutely love just listening in.
Yeah, that me, myself, and mother should have an Oxford comma, but it doesn't. If it doesn't, then it means the 3 words aren't connected. Nowhere.
Guys, just think, if he's filming right now, and you can plug something and he'll cut it out.
Go subscribe to my...
Our main red herring was to do with place names. Hidden in each clue, there was a place name. So clue 1, me, myself, and mother will, Motherwell. In clue 2, it was slightly more obvious. The word Great Yarmouth was said.
In Great Yarmouth.
And clue 3, we had at the beginning of the clue, Darling Tonight, which meant that you hopefully saw Darlington. But what in that makes it a red herring? Well, the first sign is that in clue 2, the clip from Great Yarmouth has not come from a Max Fosh video in any way, shape or form. It's actually come from an informational video about Great Yarmouth, I think in the 1980s.
No, we're in Great Yarmouth. You all right? Carry on.
Great Yarmouth is also best known for fish, more specifically smoked herring, which there is another colloquial name for smoked herring, which is red herring. And also, there's a very famous pub in Great Yarmouth called the Red Herring. So it's safe to say that Great Yarmouth was a bit of a red herring. If you also plot Darlington, Motherwell and Great Yarmouth on a map, they all connect perfectly with a straight line running perfectly through them. That was our way of giving a red herring, but also suggesting to you that these red herrings were all connected. But let me quickly tell you what wasn't a red herring. Of course, it was a sponsor of this series, Surfshark VPN. They're the ones who really put the £10,000 in the briefcase, so thank you very much, Surfshark. Surfshark VPN is a virtual private network, and they do all sorts, but not licorice. Look into it, guys. I have to say, it was absolutely essential that I use Surfshark when I was setting the treasure hunt with Mystery Man because of all the data protection that Surfshark gives me. All of the theories, clues, and ideas were all on this bad boy. So if I went and used a public Wi-Fi somewhere without Surfshark, somebody could, you know, tippy-tappy away, get all my data, see where the clues were, see where the treasure is. I'm out 10 grand. Luckily, Surfshark has me covered.
Sam, who's your favourite VPN provider?
The one and only 83% off that is Surfshark.
Yeah!
As the newly wealthy and very informed Sambo says, remember to use the code MAXFOSH for 83% off and 3 free extra months. Oh, my phone's ringing. Who is it? It's a great deal. Hello? If you press the blue sentence that's in my description, it will take you to the Surfshark website where you can get that sweet, sweet protection. Now, it's time for me to tell you how you could find the money. Right, let's begin. Clue 1. Probably the easiest of all the 3 clues. And the answer to the clue was right there in the first line. Me, myself, and mother. Now, you've got to think, who's giving you these clues? I am. So, if you had that in mind, me, myself, and mother is a pretty bizarre combination of words. So me could be changed to Max, myself, I, and mother, mum. So me, myself, and mother goes to Max, I, mum. Maximum. And the second line was a confirmer. Will give no more than that. Now, you can't have any more than maximum, so you can be pretty certain you've got that right with maximum. That was the answer to clue 1. But with maximum, that means nothing. So how can we use maximum to lead us to Fosh Cross Lane? This is where clue 2 comes in. Clue 2 was an audio clue and was definitely much harder than clue 1. Clue 2 sounded like this.
Then this happened in the 1980s, and it was notoriously
Been great, Yarmouth.
Now, when I released that clue, you did exactly what I thought you were going to do, and I saw it on the Reddit, I saw it on the Discord, I got sent it a few times. You went through my old videos and found the instances where those audio clips come from.
This happened in the 1980s, and it was notoriously
Been great, Yarmouth.
I then wanted you to watch that and see, okay, what is the overarching theme here? Is there a connection between all these clues? And so the first one was me at the Conquer World Championships about to play Andy. Next up, we had me fencing. And thirdly, from Takeshi's Castle, we saw someone hitting a big foam cylinder whilst someone stood on top of it. In both of the Conquer and the fencing videos, what happened immediately after that was that I was beaten comprehensively. And with the big hammer, that's a form of beating. So then I want you to think of different words that could be associated with beating. Thrashing being the opposite one. That was the answer to clue 2, which I will admit is very tricky. There's a little bit of lateral thinking needed there, which is why I gave you an extra clue for clue 2, which was a poem. And the poem looked like this. Now, if you look at all of these words here, they all have one syllable, except for one, thrashing. And the last line is a total confirmer to this. 2, not 1, is what you need. So, the answer for clue 2 was simply thrashing. Now, with clue 3, we went back to doing a poem. Darling, tonight let us dine on mogul dishes so fine. 3 courses with wine. The first sounds divine. Hopefully by then you would have realised that you were looking for one single word. And again, clue 3 was quite tricky, which is why I did give an extra hint that I posted on Instagram. Now, with clue 3, the most important part of the poem was the last line. The first sounds divine. What's the first sound of clue 3? Dal. I wanted you to then make a connection with Indian cuisine, which is why on the second line we wrote on mogul dishes so fine. So dal is the first sound of the poem, but also dal is a very important part of Indian cuisine. Dal is an example of a lentil, which was the answer to clue 3. Hopefully the extra clue I gave for clue 3 helped. It was a picture of a menu from an Indian restaurant, and the only example of dal being on the menu, the first word underneath was lentil. But now all you've got is maximum, thrashing, and lentil. How are you possibly going to find a location from that? Now, a lot of people already knew this, but there is a service called What 3 Words, which essentially divides up the entirety of the globe into these small squares, and each square has 3 corresponding words with it. You type in those words into What 3 Words, and it gives you a very, very specific point on the globe. I even made this abundantly clear by, if you take the first section of the third line, in each clue, we've got words, what, and 3. Clear as day. What 3 words? The fact that What 3 Words wasn't spelled out in order with clue 1 to 3 maybe suggested that you should potentially mix up the words, which is what Sam did. But if you had those 3 words, there was only 9 different combinations which they could be in. And eventually, by putting in the combination of lentil, maximum, and thrashing, it took you to Fosh Cross Lane. The exact location where it takes you on Fosh Cross Lane is a massive X on Google Maps. It's also very close to Cirencester, where I've done a number of videos, the roundabout video being one of them. Also, when I went to the poshest uni in the world, Cirencester.
I'm not posh, I love kebabs.
Also, at Cirencester is where I've had my most viewed video ever. So the first clue maximum, if you'd gone another way of thinking, it could have helped. You would have seen Fosh cross lane and thought, ooh, that's a bit interesting. So that is simply how you found the £10,000 that I hid in a briefcase. Congratulations to Sam, congrats to all of his team that helped in the Discord. The community on this has been incredible. You guys have come together and helped out. And I guess all that's left to say is, I'll see you next week for a new video. Bye. Right, I've got an unknown caller. This could be the winner. Hello?
Miss Fosh, how the devil are you? No, because I've opened a certain briefcase.
Okay, hold on, Mr. Cope. I just need to check that you have found the briefcase through the correct means.
I have found your briefcase because I have solved all of your clues that have led me to a pinpoint direction on what 3 words, and those clues were lentil, maximum, and thrashing.
Congratulations, Sam. You have won £10,000.